Hello, I'm John Brisson, author of Fix Your Gut and Health Coach. Welcome to the Fix Your Gut YouTube channel. And tonight we're going to talk about one of my favorite supplements, activated charcoal. Now, I've used activated charcoal myself in the past. My family members have used it. I've recommended it to friends and family. Some people have took me up on the recommendation and some people haven't. I've recommended it to various clients, and I've even, talked about it and written about it on fixyourgut.com, my blog. So I am a fan of activated charcoal, but I will say this. I do recommend the Bulletproof Coconut Charcoal, and we'll talk about why towards the end of the video. But one thing you notice on this label, it says detox. Now, I do recommend the use of activated charcoal for certain, detox reasons. But when you're on the internet, there's two conventional thoughts of detoxification. There's either the conventional thought of detoxification, that our bodies are able to handle appropriately the detoxification of all the many different chemicals that we come in contact in our modern world, whether through glutathione production or defecation or urination, and that is perfectly fine. I remember a long time ago watching a Ben and Teller BS episode that they interviewed talking about detoxification. They interviewed a doctor who was talking about how our body could perfectly handle our toxin load. And then when you look on the alternative side of things, it's nothing but, there's toxins everywhere, which is true, and that our bodies are just too overburdened, and we need all the help we can get, ranging from taking many supplements like activated charcoal daily to zeolite, to doing coffee enemas. And I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in the middle. And it really depends on the person. A person with a heavy toxin load, they may require more detoxification, especially if they're dealing with, very strong chronic dysbiosis. Then yeah, or if they're dealing with heavy metal issues like mercury burden, they have to follow the Andrew Cutler protocol. Then by all means, yes, they would have to detox for sure. But it is somewhere in the middle. Our body does have the mechanisms to heal itself properly. So let's talk about activated charcoal. So activated charcoal is produced from burning a carbon source that yields a very blackish, porous material. And you can see here in these capsules, they're very, very dark inside of them. Carbon is very black. And, carbon is the building blocks of life on Earth. So there are many different grades of activated charcoal that differ in their absorption capabilities, but mainly at Fix Your Gut, we mainly talk about primarily food grade activated charcoal and medical grade activated charcoal. And yes, activated charcoal is used conventionally. In hospital settings or emergency setting, where a person come in and they either ingested some sort of medication, usually in the form of an overdose, whether they meant to or not, or being poisoned, whether that was someone trying to murder someone, sadly, or an accidental poison. Activated charcoal is given to the person and to try to help absorb some of the material that they ingested. And even if they are unconscious, they will make a bolus feeding of activated charcoal through a feeding tube to try to absorb some of the toxin. And it is controversial, because activated charcoal, it does not absorb to everything. It only binds to larger molecules, non-polar molecules that have a negative charge, because activated charcoal has a slight positive charge. There are a few things that we know that it does not bind to, like alcohol, for example. Now, I know on the internet you'll read to prevent hangovers and stuff like that you should take activated charcoal, and there might be some truth to that, because it will absorb some of the impurities that are found in really cheap swill alcohol. It will help with that, but still, nonetheless, it doesn't absorb the alcohol itself. And I know Dave Asprey talks a lot about using activated charcoal if you're going to drink, but it doesn't absorb alcohol. It just really absorbs any impurities that are in the alcohol itself, and that's been proven by studies that were done in the 80s, and there hasn't really been no need to replicate those studies because it's pretty set in stone, it's pretty permanent. So yeah, you don't want to if you're drinking alcohol, you might want to take 1 or 2 if you're drinking really cheap alcohol. But if you're drinking really clean alcohol like Grey Goose vodka, it may really not prevent a hangover. Glutathione and B vitamins and staying hydrated and eating carbohydrates is probably a better way to prevent a hangover. It also doesn't absorb glycols, anything that has a very strong, that's very strongly acidic or very strongly basic. And it doesn't absorb heavy metals, especially like lithium and iron. So yeah, it doesn't really do very well for that. Now, there are some things that it does bind to that are very important. One are endotoxins, which are what gram-negative bacteria produce, and a lot of people with gram-negative dysbiosis, especially when they try to reduce their dysbiosis following, different protocols like my SIBO protocol or my upper gut protocol. When the gram-negative bacteria, when the cell lyses or when it opens up and they die, they spill the endotoxins everywhere, and your body starts having an inflammatory reaction to that and can cause brain fog and fatigue. And if it gets into the bloodstream out of the gut, if someone has leaky gut, it can start inflaming the heart and cause high blood pressure and start inflaming the brain and causing a whole host of issues there too. And I've written extensively about endotoxins on fixyourgut.com, my blog. You can go search in the search bar of endotoxins and read all about the issues associated with them. So it does help absorb that. So a lot of people on protocols that are prone to Herxheimer reactions, they may take activated charcoal, and some people do see success in reducing their toxin load and do seem to lessen the effects of a Herxheimer reaction. Another thing is activated charcoal absorbs excess gas that a lot of people with dysbiotic flora produce. It absorbs hydrogen sulfide that a lot of bacteria produce that are opportunistic. They can cause bloating, and it absorbs methane that a lot of archaea produce from hydrogen. That also causes bloating too as well. Remember, there are 5 gases that the microorganisms produce in your digestive tract, and a healthy person is primarily nitrogen and carbon dioxide, and then there's hydrogen, methane, and hydrogen sulfide. Now, nitrogen is absorbed into the bloodstream and used to produce nitrous oxide or eliminated from the body, and carbon dioxide is absorbed into the bloodstream and breathed out. So these two generally do not bloat, if at all. It is hydrogen sulfide, and methane, which people with dysbiosis or have, more opportunistic bacteria that produce these gases instead of most of your probiotic bacteria that produce, a lot of the times produce nitrogen and carbon dioxide. This causes bloating, and the activated charcoal will absorb that gas and help you eliminate it from the body when you defecate. Now, finally, there are a lot of people who follow the Bulletproof diet. They use activated charcoal to bind the toxins that they ingest in food, especially if they're eating a meal that is red on the Bulletproof diet scale because of mycotoxins, which, mycotoxins, that people who are mycotoxin sensitive can trigger a Th2 reaction. It can trigger, when ingesting, trigger fatigue, brain fog, flushing, histamine type reactions. So yeah, they may take coconut charcoal or activated charcoal when they ingest something that they feel may have mycotoxins that they may react to. So how much activated charcoal should a person take? Well, it depends on the severity of their Herxheimer reaction first. Now, for most people, I suggest that they start with 1 or 2 charcoal capsules, usually a couple hours after they take their antimicrobial supplements, because activated charcoal is very porous. It will absorb a lot of the antimicrobials that you take, and a lot of medications too, including antibiotics. So you do not want to take this while you're taking medications or antimicrobial supplements. You would want to take it hours apart from that. Same with a meal. It may absorb some of the nutrients from your meal too. Now, there is a caveat to that. If you are going to ingest a meal that you believe to be suspect, and you think you might get food poisoning, whether you're eating outside of your house, or you're eating some leftovers from your house that maybe might be sketchy. You're eating a meal at a friend's house or relative's house that you're afraid may be undercooked, or you're eating at a restaurant that may be not perfect. Then you may want to take a capsule or 2 of activated charcoal for precaution. I've done it in the past. My family's done it in the past. Friends have done it in the past. So, clients of mine have recommended have done it in the past. So, yeah, you make sure, when I travel, I carry a bottle of this with me just in case I eat something that may make me sick. And it has saved me in the past. And I've actually only got food-borne illness maybe once or twice in the past, I think, the past 8 years. And I have taken it afterwards, and it did even help afterwards too, because it does absorb a lot of the enterotoxins that organisms that produce, that cause foodborne illnesses. It does help absorb those. So yeah, I mean, especially if a person does not have an appendix, which can set you up for SIBO, and I'll talk more about that when I record an episode on the appendix, so variform appendix, and why it's important. You want to make sure that you lessen the effects of foodborne illness as much as possible, and that's why you want to take the coconut charcoal, a capsule or two if you're eating sketchy food, and even maybe sketchy food that you might not think is sketchy. If you're, for example, in another country, like a third world country, just to be on the safe side. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend activated charcoal taking with meals for that, but for most other purposes, or let's say, I didn't talk about it, but I talked about it earlier. If you're following the Bulletproof diet and you are trying to avoid mycotoxins and you're going to ingest a meal that you think might be suspect, then yeah, I would recommend taking a capsule or two of that to prevent any issues. But for most people, you should take activated charcoal hours away from meals, medications, or supplements, because you would not want this to absorb that and interfere with that. Now, there are a few side effects associated with activated charcoal. They're very rare, though. It can cause constipation. And so that's why you want to start with small doses of about a capsule or two to see what it does to you, even if you are prone to constipation. Now, proper ingestion of water, make sure you're drinking enough water a day and staying hydrated, and magnesium supplementation and using a squatty potty may help if you get constipation from the activated charcoal. Now, don't be surprised if it makes your stool black, you're not having an ulcer, you're not bleeding an upper gut or anything like that. Material is very black, so it will make your stool black, so don't be worried if that is the case. Now, there is a possibility if you take too much, it could cause a gastrointestinal blockage, which is a medical emergency. But it shouldn't really happen unless they gave you, like, for example, you're in a hospital and they maybe gave you too much through a bolus. You'd have to take a lot of these pills for that to happen. Or you have that very, very sluggish motility or motility issues for that to even occur. So I'm not too terribly worried about it for 1 or 2 capsules. That should not happen unless you were very chronically constipated. But other than that, it should be okay. And if you end up getting severe abdominal pain from ingesting a couple of capsules of coconut charcoal, or activated charcoal, then you want to go to the emergency room, because you might have an intestinal blockage and that needs to be diagnosed through an X-ray or a CT scan without contrast, or MRI without contrast. But yeah, I would recommend getting that done if you take some activated charcoal and you double over in pain. Now, rarely for some people like this comes from coconut shells. If you have allergic reactions to coconut, it may trigger it. It's so highly purified it shouldn't, but I have seen some people on certain Facebook groups and forums who are very sensitive or allergic to coconut have negative reactions to coconut charcoal. So it is possible, so I do want to put it out there. Now, one of the main and only brands of activated charcoal I recommend is the Bulletproof Charcoal. Now, granted, I don't recommend a lot of Bulletproof products anymore, and that's because they widely are different in their quality. That being said, this is still the best activated charcoal on the market. Might be why, because Dave probably still takes it, and he wants good charcoal, and this is good charcoal. It's ultra fine, it's very purified. The more fine the charcoal is, the more it increases its absorption rate. This is good stuff. That's why I buy it, I use it, and I use it for my family. So it gets to fix your gut seal of approval. You can buy other activated charcoal. It comes from other sources if you're allergic to coconut. Just try to find pharmaceutical grade if all possible, or food grade at the bare minimum. That's fine too. But I do recommend the Bulletproof Coconut Charcoal. It's good stuff. Hope you found this video informative. If you do, please give us a like and share the video too. If you like our content that we're doing on the Fix Your Gut YouTube channel, please subscribe and donate using the PayPal link in the show notes. Hope you enjoyed this brief video vlog on coconut charcoal. And if you have one comment I'd like to ask is, do you use activated charcoal? And what brand? And what do you use it for? And please answer in the comment section below. I read every comment and I try to answer to every comment if possible. And hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.